So, what we got here is basically an autistic superhero movie. So the premise of The Accountant is that Ben Affleck is this accountant named Christian Wolff, who on the surface seems to be a regular, ordinary, good-natured, does your aunt's taxes kind of guy, but in reality is an internationally wanted rogue man of mystery who earns massive paydays from dictators, arms dealers, crime syndicates, and other dangerous characters by performing superhuman feats of mathematics on their financials like he's some kind of human supercomputer. And because he moves in such dangerous company, he's also a weapons expert, an incredible marksman, and a hand-to-hand combat expert, so if you cross him, he's gonna fuck you up bad. But that's not the hook. The hook is that his superhuman math skills are owed to his having a high-functioning form of autism, which in turn seems at first to account for his low profile and socially withdrawn demeanor. Now let's be honest about this, folks. That's the kind of premise that could really go either way, right? I mean, Hollywood doesn't really have the best track record of depicting autism on screen, even when it's trying to be sensitive about it, and while the basic premise of, hey, here's this badass fuck-you-up Jason Bourne guy happens to have autism, is itself theoretically a positive premise as far as representation is concerned, it could easily, very easily tip over into the tacky cliche where autism gives you superpowers, like you see in a lot of bad movies. You know, as in, oh, he's super focused, and that's why he's good with guns and kung fu. Fortunately, that is not the angle The Accountant takes. Oh, his skills with math are tied to the unique way he sees the world and processes information, but his martial arts, survivalist, and weaponry skills were imparted to him by his ex-military hardcase father to help protect himself in a world that might not understand him. So he's an action hero who is autistic, as opposed to an autism-powered hero. I honestly don't feel like I'm in a position to say whether that means the premise isn't still vaguely exploitative or not, but it's definitely trying not to be in a sincere effort. As a matter of fact, thematically, the movie is bending over backwards to make sure we all know that Wolff isn't a stereotypical movie autism character. The plot concerning his backstory and motives especially is very much concerned with making a statement about how we overlook and underestimate such people, and it spends a lot of time helping us understand that Wolff isn't childlike or innocent or some kind of adorably unself-conscious, tick-spouting human calculator. He's an adult man with complex emotions, desires, opinions, who fully understands the world around him. He just processes it and interacts with it differently than most people would. At the very least, that's a lot better than characters like this usually get. And while Affleck has always been something of a limited instrument as an actor, he really makes the character feel real and three-dimensional, mostly by underplaying it. At least as real as you can get, given that this is the sort of movie that can segue from realistic flashbacks about raising a child on the spectrum to other flashbacks where that same child is being instructed in Pencak Silat by an Indonesian martial arts guru in a ruined temple. Yeah, really. The plot, for what it's worth, involves the accountant taking on a rare non-criminal client in the tech sector, only to end up uncovering evidence of a massive conspiracy that turns him and an employee he's befriended, played by Anna Kendrick, into targets for assassination, which will require all of Wolff's skills and then some to outwit and eventually solve the mystery. And unfortunately, the mystery is where the accountant kind of breaks down. Now, it's not that it's a bad mystery, it's fine, it's sensible, and has a mostly satisfying payoff, but the film gets so invested in being a mystery and playing with the machinery of twists and reveals and hidden motivations that it ends up smothering the pretty good story and the very good character work. See, while Wolff is trying to solve the Who Wants Me Dead mystery, there's also a parallel storyline about J.K. Simmons and Cynthia Addai Robinson as U.S. Treasury agents who are trying to figure out who the accountant actually is. And while they're both fine, the storyline just makes everything needlessly fucking complicated. You see, for their storyline to work as a mystery, there has to be stuff for them to discover, which means the main story with Wolff has to arbitrarily leave out important information about him and his background to be discovered, and the film never really finds a full balance between the two halves. Instead, it just keeps piling up surprise reveal after surprise reveal, and all but one that comes at the very end feels completely pointless. Not in the we didn't need to know that sense, but in the there was no reason for that information to be held back kind of sense. Now look, retelling a fairly conventional thriller story in a way that plays with nonlinear timelines, unreliable narration, willfully withholding key information, and then finishing it all off with a big surprise can result in a good movie. Hell, following that exact formula tricked people into thinking Bryan Singer was good at making movies for like 20 years. But most of the time, you end up with movies like The Accountant, where you're kind of confused for most of it, and then when it's all explained, you go, Oh, well, alright, that was alright, but I bet just a regular movie letting us watch this really interesting main character do his thing would probably be better. Honestly, I can barely be bothered to even remember what the point of the present-day part of the story even was, but on the other hand, I absolutely want to know whose books Christian Wolf is going to go over next, and whose head he's going to take off with that ginormous fucking sniper rifle. So, just 2 stars from me on this one, but bump it up to 2.5 if you're a big fan of somebody in the cast.